Welcome to Knicksfandom. This is an independent New York Knicks fan-based podcast, which was created by fans for fans. The show is hosted by LA Blackwell, Danny, and Flau. They'll discuss the issues surrounding the Knicks, the NBA, and various other sports-related topics. Join us. It's going to be a heck of a ride.
Hey everyone, we're back. Please excuse our holiday hiatus, but we're here and we're ready to go. This is episode 9 of Knicksfandom, and this episode will be more of a roundtable discussion regarding the New York Knicks and NBA overall. I'm your host, as always, LA Blackwell, and as usual, I'm joined by one of my co-hosts, Flau. How you been, brother?
I'm all right. Happy New Year. It's been a long time.
That's right. Happy New Year.
Go beat step two.
I hear you. Happy New Year to our listeners out there, as well as our co-hosts. Hey, yeah. How's everything with you, Danny D? How's everything going this new year?
I'm good, man. I'm back. Welcome back, guys. I'm glad to be back, man. Let's go.
Let's get it, man. That's right, fellas. As we continue to revamp our show and following certain feedback from some of our listeners, we decided to move up our segment known as the weekly Knicks Roundup. So basically, this is going to be Knicks Roundup. A lot of things have happened since the last podcast, since our little hiatus. We're going to go into it right now. Starting with you, Danny D. How you feel about the Knicks where they're at right now in this day and age?
Horrible. That's what it is. It's horrible. They've been playing like boo, boo, boo. So last time we checked in, they're around. We were in the playoffs. Now we're at like 9th or 10th place out of the playoffs, and it's not looking good. I don't know what to say. I'm going to have to give it to you guys and what y'all think. I don't know. 3 out of 7, that's not cutting it. That's all I got to say. It's not cutting it.
I hear you. Let me do a little specifics regarding that right before I get to Flau. You were exactly right there, Danny D. Since our last podcast, the Knicks went 3-7 in the previous 11 games, which included a 6-game losing streak at that as well. So the Knicks' total record now stands at 17-20, with a home record of 11-7 and a road record of 6-13. As you stated, Danny, the Knicks wouldn't even be in playoffs at this moment. So the same way we took a hiatus, pretty much the Knicks took a hiatus, basically. How about you, Flau? What do you feel about the Knicks are right now, overall?
Awful. They stink. And it's a shame. Because of all of the moves that our president of basketball operations, Phil Jackson, has done, right now, it's not looking good at all. He invested $72 million, Joakim Noah. We starting to look a little bit better, but he's not where he needs to be. Invested $50 million in Courtney Lee, 4-year deal. He's second in the NBA in three-point shooting, around 46%. But he's still not touching the ball as much as he should be. Melo's mellow. But overall, this team looks awful. It's a shame. And I hope they can get better. If not, between now and February 25th at 3 p.m., the NBA trade deadline, is that date, then the Knicks will have to make a decision between now and that date to either break this team up or get better in terms of improving this team to make a playoff push. So we'll see. Definitely we'll see.
Gotta concur with you right there, Flau. To me, the Knicks are Jekyll and Hyde, man. There's a roller coaster ride right now, and we're way more downs than ups. You thought they was going to be a playoff contender. Right now, they're not proven to be that. So it's basically in a rock and a hard place to me. It's like a team that you have to decide, like you just said a few moments ago, or you're going to break them up, or you're going to take their chance and see what happens and just let it ride throughout the whole season. I hate being a team like that. I'd rather just know right off the top if you think you just want to break them up and just go for the overall lottery pick and just take the piece that you have now, or if you're thinking this team could have that magical season at the end of the ride, like a Detroit and those other type of teams that made that big run, a Denver team back in the day when they played against Seattle, even just something like that, a first-round upset, I don't know. I don't see it right now, but we'll see as the season go by. As we go along with this podcast, we'll get more to details with that. Anything specifically stands out to you, Danny D, regarding these last 11 games or so since our previous podcast?
Only thing is, I think about that, the previous podcast, is that the bench is really stepping up for these guys, even though some losing efforts like Ron Baker. Ron Baker's, he played some valuable minutes against like Milwaukee and these guys coming off the bench, and he really stepped up because I don't know what Ron is, but he's the third starting point guard that's coming out there, and he gave some lifts in a couple of games, and he's doing his thing. and these guys are getting some burn because Noah and these guys. I don't know what he's doing out there, but Ron Baker and William Gomez, they give him some playing times, and they're doing their thing. And if we start developing these guys and we can start gelling, hopefully we can get some W's. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you with that. And he did it at an appropriate time playing for that contract before the end of the season. So he basically guaranteed the rest of it. So he definitely had an incentive inside of that. But I hear what you're saying with that. How about you, Flo? What you think stands out Pacific-wise or game-wise within the last 11 games or so? Then I'll just get my little take.
I'll be honest with you. I will agree with Danny to a certain extent that Ron Baker actually saved the Knicks of having a 9-game losing streak. Pretty much he played the entire, 12 minutes in that fourth quarter in that Milwaukee game, which was actually a playoff game. I'm talking about that Milwaukee game in Milwaukee, Friday night game. That was a playoff game. And Rose and Jennings, took the night off in both of those games, and Ron Baker stepped up with a 6 points, 4 assists, no turnovers. And I believe the Knicks only had 1 turnover in that fourth quarter. Great comeback win for them to put it into their losing streak. Ron Baker is definitely a part of it. And I even see Melo gave him some encouraging words after the game. I don't know what he said. I was trying to read his lips, but, he had a lot to say to Ron Baker when the game was over. It looked like pretty much he was thanking him, so. Other than that, they have a long...
No, I said he definitely was. He definitely was. He said, the food is on me tonight, fella. That's what he's saying. Looked like to me. Because that's definitely one he had to win. That was the season right there. But go ahead, Flo, continue.
No, I mean, pretty much, he definitely saved the Knicks from a 9-game losing streak. He probably saved Jeff Hornacek's job, pretty much. If they had lost that game, I honestly would have came on the air saying, listen, guys, it's time to fire Jeff Hornacek. And you know what? Maybe if I'm the owner, Jim Dolan, I go to Phil, so listen, man, this is your mess. I don't want you bringing an assistant coach this team. You coach this team. This is your mess.
I hear you. It's definitely frustrating right now being a Knicks fan, seeing the way the team is playing, especially expected more out of them right now. But that was a game that really, and plus going into the game before that was a game that really got me amped up, really stressed out. I even contacted y'all during that game and letting you know, this is just terrible. Just looking at this, and it's like just seeing that with the Lance Thomas. He's been one of my favorite Knicks so far this season. So just seeing the last bucket when they got the turnover, the turning around jump shot by Acapulco and everything of that nature. That was just a game that they should have won. They had the lead going into the fourth quarter, and then just to lose it like that was just a hard one to take. So you're basically going to see what they were made of. They came back the next game. That was a game right before that. I had a lot of trade options I thought they should really look at. May go back into as the season go along, but that win made you feel like you had to give them an opportunity or a chance to fight a little more during this season. And right now, if they're going to make a push, to me, I think this is the time. They got a lot of games that's very winnable. If you look at the schedule coming up for the next week or 2 weeks or so, they definitely got to make up some ground if they're really going to make something out of this season. Anyone else want to say anything in particular about this 11 games?
The only thing I have to say is that, the M Mountain said that it was a violation on the last shot in the Milwaukee game. That was a 5-second violation. Who cares? We still got to
Pretty much.
You know what I'm saying? You're not reversing it. So what's the point of bringing it out for? You're not reversing it. Who cares?
Yeah, then you had an issue where they were saying the back down was more than 5 seconds and things of that nature. But also Melo was supposed to be in a lane, like you said, as well. So it's hard to tell with that. This game that shouldn't have even came down to that to me. I didn't know why Thompson was going on 1-on-1 at the end of the game anyway. I would have double teamed him and take the ball out of his hand at that point. Let anybody beat you if that was going to be the case, but not him. Not in that type of game. That's the thing that got me upset with that. How about you, Flo, regarding that game?
Pretty much, gentlemen, to add on to Danny, regardless that the NBA came out with a 2-minute report, you still had a 12-point lead going to into the fourth quarter. You made your run. So, again, you had the lead. You got to hold the lead. There's no way you should lose this game at the buzzer like that. It was a mystery to me to see Lance Thomas guarding him. I actually, believe it or not, as crazy as this sounds, they were probably better off, double teaming him or actually just let Noah guarding him 1-on-1. I know that sounds crazy, but Noah has the height, advantage over Lance Thomas in guarding Inaka Kapupo. I don't want Lance Thomas guarding Inaka Kapupo whatsoever. 6'11", point guard from Milwaukee, matching up against a 6'7", 6'8", backup power forward in the Knicks. At the end of the day, Milwaukee's going to win that matchup. So.
And don't forget, he just missed a wide open jumper that Rose had drove and kicked it off to him that would have put the game away right then. So it was like 2 plays in a row. He came up to gold in that game, man. That was a horrible one to me. But I mean, he somewhat redeemed himself the next one. So what? Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because that's a shot that, guys, I can make, you can make, D can make. We would never miss that shot. And Derrick Rose, drove to the basket and kicked it out to us. We would have made that shot. You
got to hit that, man. You're NBA professional. You have to hit that type of shot. And then just to give up that shot at the end to fade away, it was just. And as soon as I seen him hold him, I knew the game was over. I was texting D right away. I said, "This game is done. That's it." And right then, and you just seen Melo just look totally dejected after that. But the next game, they had to win. You talking about a must-win? That was a must-win game. Thomas got a nice steal at the end of the game. They got the layup or the dunk, I should say, at the end. So, they redeemed themselves, but then they stunk it up with the last game right before this podcast with the Pacers. And once again, didn't show a pulse. You had injuries. Same old same thing. We've been talking about the defense, the injuries. There's just too many things with this team that has to go right for them to win. And they find ways to not win sometimes, which is a characteristic of a very bad team at times. So, but I guess that's pretty much for that, unless anybody else want to go another direction with this. Otherwise, we'll just go into the next segment.
Add one more thing.
Sure, Flo.
Honestly, if the Knicks find a way, get their act together and make the playoffs, you know who's going to be the team MVP? Believe it or not?
Who's that?
The Knicks physicians will be the team MVP.
Pretty much. I would agree with that. Because the thing is, they don't play well when all three of them is not on the team at the same time with Rose, Porzingis, or Melo. That's pretty much the team right there from what it looks like to me. Which is a lot of teams, but this more than pretty much the other ones right now for other teams in the NBA. Yeah.
But other teams, I agree with that. But the thing is, what we said in the beginning of the podcast and over the different several podcasts that we have, they have to beat teams that are mediocre. You can't be losing to mediocre teams like the Pelicans. You just beat up on the Hawks and Pelicans, Hawks, Magic. You got Pacers. You can't go 1-1. You have to sweep these teams to at least get even to get the 8th or 7th spots. If you're losing to these teams, now when you're playing the Celtics and the Cavs and other teams like that with a better 500 record, they're going to think it's a cakewalk. They're going to walk through you. And when you can't play catch-up, you know what I'm saying? We can't do the Jordan thing. You can't play catch-up because it's hard. It's hard to get wins and get games on teams that has 5, 6, 7 games ahead of you.
I gotta agree with you. That's basically the team. I mean, that's basically the situation right now. They're not good enough for that, They're not a veteran team that's been together for a while. They don't play enough great defense to do that. Also, their bench, as we stated from the very first podcast, is shaky. So they gotta do a lot of things right in order to win. So when you don't show with energy, you don't show up just with passion as well. You don't play smart out there, but a lot of times they having bad defensive assignments and things of that nature. You're gonna lose more than you're gonna win. And right now, with the East is all over the place. You easily should be in the 4th or 5th spot right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at, I just want to go into that real quick before we go to the next segment. Just looking at the schedule coming up and just looking at it right off the top, some of the games they have coming up is, like you said, New Orleans. They have Philadelphia, Chicago, Toronto, Atlanta, and Boston. Just in those games right there, you should at least win 4 to 5 games in that to me, right off the top. And you also have Washington, Phoenix. You have Indiana against, which you should try and redeem yourself. Dallas, which is struggling. Charlotte, Atlanta, and Washington. Atlanta's basically blown to their team, and I have some issue to say about that as part of one of the topics I want to bring up. And the recent Cleveland deal with Korver, which I think really changed the whole landscape of the NBA right now, in my eyes. But, and just going into that, I think the big thing is just see where this team is right before the 23rd, which I said before, Thursday game against Cleveland is a big game. I think you'll see where the Knicks are at around that point. If this team is still doing this up and down roller coaster thing, you really got to explore. To me, at this point, I've been a big fan of keeping Melo and things of that nature. You really have to open it up and decide if you can really try to move him. If to see what teams he open to being moved to.
Yeah, that's the thing. Remember, he got that no trade clause, so it's going to be where he wants to go.
You really have to explore it this time. I think if that team is not the way it should be by the 23rd, I think that's what you have to do right around that area. How about you, Flo? Anything with that before we go to the next segment?
Pretty much just want to add a little bit more into what you just mentioned before. And also want to bring up something Danny mentioned, I believe, in podcast episode number 6. There's a player that the Knicks have in their D-League by the name of Chasson Randall, point guard, that they had a cut and they signed him to the D-League. I don't know if you guys are aware. Supposedly, he worked out with the Philadelphia 76ers yesterday. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
Look at that. It's crazy. Because Philly needs a point guard.
Wow.
Exactly. TJ McConnell right now. TJ McConnell is a guy that LA mentioned, and I believe in episode 7 in the podcast, of a player that the Knicks should go after, which I agree with. He's starting. He's averaging at least 35 to 40 minutes a night. They don't have a point guard on their roster. The rest of their point guards in Philadelphia are all hurt. So he's making a name for himself. I believe in one game, 15 assists. Can't remember what team he was playing against, but he had 15 assists. Oh, it was against Boston. He had 15 assists against Boston in Boston. And I believe that was on Thursday or Friday. So, again, this team is struggling. They got to make a move. When you look at their schedule, they have tomorrow the Pelicans at the Garden. They go to Philly Wednesday. They're home against the Bulls Thursday, which is probably a TNT game. And then Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, they go to Toronto. Very important for this team to find a way to take 3 out of 4 in this, in those 4 games. They can't afford a split, so they got to take 3 out of 4.
Sure.
Exactly. Well, can't disagree with you right now. That's where the Knicks are at, And we're just gonna see if they're gonna fight out of this or they're gonna falter, and then you gotta make the best move for the organization at this point. But I want to go into the next segment, which is basically our tip-off segment, which we're moving down a little bit during this podcast and maybe future ones. So right now, here we go into tip-off. And as usual, tip-off is a segment where we talk about any NBA or sports-related topic that we may find interesting, and hopefully you, the listener, also find interesting as well. For the start off this week, Danny D, you have anything to discuss in regards to our tip-off segment?
On the tip-off segment, I'm going to go with the NBA having the new CBA deal. And now what they're doing is that retired NBA players are going to get added benefits. According to, ESPN, a writer called Omar Yugomusco, whatever his name is, a staff writer. So what they're saying is now that since like when Daryl Dawkins and Moses Malone died recently, they're given new health coverage privileges. So if you played in the NBA for more than 10 years, you and your family is going to get free healthcare for life. So that's for all the retired. So that's for all the retired players. So that's everybody. That's going back to the 1960s, 1950s. Because what they're saying that before, retired players would get their pension, but they would have to pay for their health insurance. And they said some dudes, like in their 50s and 60s, were paying like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a year just on co-payments. So now that's what they changed now. And also they're gonna get added benefits. So now you're gonna get free healthcare for your family. So they're getting all the surgeries and procedures done for free. And they're also going to get reimbursed for college tuition, and they're getting a transition programs that cover up to $33,000 annually. So, a lot of guys in the 70s and 60s who played for like 10 more years when they were a child, back in the day, they wasn't making $153 million like Mike Conley on the Grizzlies. These dudes have to go back, So they had to go back and get like regular jobs, So that's a tip of. I think it was quite interesting because no other sport has that right now. No other sport has that for free healthcare for retirees.
That's very good tip-off segment.
That's crazy, right?
And you would think that the sport that's more or least probably non-physical sports should not be the league that would have that. You would think maybe a football league or a hockey league should have that first, considering their NBA or their careers, I should say, within their leagues are so much shorter usually versus some of them physically and everything like that. With the running back in the NFL, a lot of times it's only 3 years or things of that nature.
I don't know, brother, because it had to be degree. Because what happens is now it's like a level system. Because now the current players is basically paying for the healthcare system, so they're taking a percentage of their check and it's going to get funded for the healthcare premium for everybody.
Okay, that's very good, very good. Anything you want to add to that, Flo?
No, I mean pretty much. I want to say that Excellent job by the president of the NBA Players Association, Chris Paul, and Vice President LeBron James in working that deal out with Commissioner Adam Silver and also Michelle Roberts, who's also the director of the NBA Players Association. So excellent job by all parties of getting this deal done. That helps, it really helps the older gentlemen that played in the game, that paved the way for LeBron James. So that helps guys like Oscar Robinson and Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Jalen Rose, help these guys. So kudos, definitely kudos for everyone that took part in that. Definitely kudos. Congratulations, getting that deal done.
Okay, very good. How about you? Thank you, D. How about you, Flo? What's your tip-off topic if you have one for today? Or your tip-off topics?
Well, pretty much like I mentioned before in the last couple of days, how we've talked in the past. And during this Pacers game, I had 4 NBA trade proposals. I wanted your take on this, guys. I'm going to go with the first one. Ready?
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Let's get it going.
All right. And the current Knicks player that I'm referring to is going to be Brandon Jennings, backup point guard for the Knicks, going to the Utah Jazz for point guard Dante Exum. According to the ESPN trade machine, the deal works for Brandon Jennings. It's a +1 on Utah side. If he gets traded to Utah, and for the Knicks, there's no change. What do you guys think of Dante Exum in that trade proposal?
You want to start with it, Danny?
Man, keep Dante Exum where he at. I don't want him. I don't want him. This ain't Australia. Keep him where he's at. I don't want him.
Funny part is I did see this recent trade rumor about earlier today before you even went on the show, and I was looking at it. It's kind of a wash on some levels, I don't really see it helping either team that much at this point. I think if anything, it probably helps Utah more than the Knicks.
Yeah,
because they've been struggling a little bit more. Their point guard Trey Burke hasn't really been what they thought he was going to be, and just overall they're not playing as well as they have. I'm even hearing a potential deal down the road. They're talking about trying to get Millsap back and putting Favors back out there possibly. So for the Knicks, I don't like it. And right now the Knicks struggling as much as they need as much help as they can get. For Utah, I think it's a decent deal for them, Not going to push them over the top either, though. But how about you, Flo? What you think about overall?
I think it's a win-win for Utah more so for the Knicks. The reason why with Jennings, keep in mind, George Hill's a free agent and at the end of the season, he's making $8 million. So just in case he decides.
Right,
hey, man, I told we could have got that deal.
It's true. No, it's true. I agree with you. You did say that. In case he walks, because he's gonna get a big free agent offer. You can sign, Jennings quickly, even though he has a 1-year deal this year. But I think this helps Utah out. As for the Knicks, I understand Dante Exum's 21 years old. He's 6'6", 190 pounds, and he's also in the top 50 in terms of defense for guards. But it doesn't help because he's only averaging 2 assists a game. So it doesn't help the Knicks at all. So I really don't like this trade at all for the Knicks. More beneficial for Utah.
Wow, he's light too.
Yeah. Nah, you're right though. He's very light, 190 pounds, pretty much. That's real light for a guy 6'6".
Okay. Thank you, Flo. Go to the next one, please.
My second trade proposal is actually the New York Knicks trading Billy Hernangomez, backup center, backup shooting guard Sasha Vujacic to the Dallas Mavericks for a backup point guard Seth Curry, which will actually be a +1 for the Knicks according to the NBA trade machine, and the money works. It will be a -2 on Dallas' side. What do you guys think about this trade proposal?
I don't like it at all. I'm not, unless you're trading for his brother. So I don't like it for the Knicks at all. I like Hernangomez. I think he's young, offensively gifted, talented center. He needs to work on his defense and just needs more experience. I don't like this upside of Curry at all compared to giving up. Not Vujacic. I could keep on that. I like him more as a role player, but that's not the main deal with that. With the Knicks struggling at the center position, especially with Noah not playing as well as I thought he would right now, definitely wouldn't do that move. How about you, Danny D?
Can't give up a big. You can't give up when he's a big that actually can play. You can't give him up. can't give up a big. A guard, I know guards are hard to come by, but bigs that can actually put the ball on the floor and actually score and play defense, and he can do that a little bit, you can't give him up.
How about you, Flo?
I actually agree with both of you guys. I don't really want to trade Willie Hernangomez. I don't mind getting Seth Curry, but I think I'm giving a little bit too much. The money works salary-wise, according to the NBA trade machine. I think Seth Curry, I believe, is averaging 11 points off the bench. He's one of the best defensive players in the NBA right now. He's made a name for himself, undrafted from Duke University. We all know he's the baby brother of Seth Curry, but he's made a name for himself, definitely, He had a lot to prove because originally he was in NBA and got cut, and he had to sign with Sacramento a couple years ago. And he made it, George Karl picked him up when he was coaching the Kings. And he had to prove himself. So, I like him a lot, but that's not the trade I would do, in my opinion.
Okay. And how about your third trade you have?
All right, two more. Trade number 3 would be, again, Seth Curry. And we're talking about Dallas. Starting center, Andrew Bogut. Backup point guard, J.J. Barrera. Coming to the Knicks for Joakim Noah. The money works. Dallas will be a -4 according to NBA Trade Machine. And for the Knicks, it will be a +1. Keep in mind, Andrew Bogut has 1 year left on his contract, which is this year. J.J. Barrera has 3 years left on the contract. And Seth Curry has 2 years. What do you guys think about this trade proposal?
I like that one slightly better. It's basically if you're just giving up totally on Noah, that's the only reason you're going to do that. Because you're thinking Bogut and Curry is basically going to give you a backup point guard that can help out the Knicks, which they really need right now. And also a center, when he's healthy, Bogut is pretty much, he's an okay center. He did well with Golden State, but you have to worry about injuries with him all the time. Not sure if I'd do that type of move yet. I don't like trading players when they're down for less than what you're going to get. Basically trading $1 for 50 cents at that point. But if you want to get out of that contract and hopefully free up some cash space, I understand it. I still will hold out a little bit. I'm not quite sure, but I'm just a little iffy. But I'm not sure I'll pull the trigger yet. How about you, Danny?
I might do it if Bogut agrees to sign an extension.
But how you feel about the health-wise and injury-wise, putting that much money into it?
He can work through it because Noah hurt too, going through it. You know, and then offensively, Bogut is better than Noah. So and then also we get the backup point guard, and then J.J. Barrera can ball. He can play. That's another dude that can spark off the bench. He can ball and Steph Curry can ball. So I might go. I would do it. Okay,
I can see where you're coming from with that. I might, if I had to, maybe I probably would pull the trigger, but I just feel like I would like to get another piece if I could, and maybe another draft pick or something that this would sweeten up a little bit. It's hard to do it with Noah playing so bad right now. How about you, Flo? I pretty much know what you're going to say with this one, I believe. How about you regarding this trade proposal?
Well, you know me very well, LA. Definitely, I'll pull the trigger on this deal. Pretty much, Noah has been struggling all season. I know he's been playing well in the last couple of days. I find it ironic that Noah's playing well during this 8-game losing streak. That's what I find funny about this whatsoever, But
I still think he's injured a little bit. I think that's I think that's part of it. I don't think he's telling that he's as healthy as you appear to be, and I think that's putting a little more emphasis on that. Regardless of injury-wise, I think he's finally getting a little back to where he used to be. But
no, definitely. No, I agree. He is hurt. I'm starting to realize that. But if I can get rid of that contract, think about this for a moment, man. Just think about this. You're just getting Bogut for this season alone. If he stinks, you let him walk. You can go after Serge Ibaka in the offseason. So not a big deal. But I know Danny would prefer that Bogut gets a contract extension first before he pull the trigger on the deal. If he agrees to this deal, if I give him a contract extension, I can't give him like 4 years. It would have to be like 2 years. That's about it.
Exactly. So I'll do that instead of him coming and you're like, oh yeah, pull some funny stuff and don't play and just get his money and just walk, just steal money like people usually do.
Especially when it comes to the Knicks. I hear you, especially if you're trying to really rebuild, which I think this team may have to go down that road. Then I'll be more inclined to do that. But if you're trying to win now, it makes me a little nervous about doing that type of deal. And what about the fourth trade proposal you have, Flo?
All right, the fourth trade proposal and final trade proposal. Again, a common theme, one specific player on the Knicks, Brandon Jennings, going to Memphis for Tony Allen. The money works. The Knicks will be a +3 according to NBA Trade Machine, and the Memphis Grizzlies will be a -3. Gentlemen, what do you think about this trade proposal?
Yeah, I saw this trade proposal earlier as well. How about you, Danny? I'll let you go first with this one.
I'm half and half. I can see why I would do it, but then we wouldn't have a backup point guard. That's the only thing. Tony Allen's a great defender. He's a lockdown defender that actually can defend, but we just need to get another guard because he just can't be a point guard. That's the only thing. I'm half and half. I'm 50-50. I'm yay and nay on it.
Same here with that, but I probably would lean a little bit not towards doing it maybe right now because I just like Jennings more for the offensive ability. At times he did have a big game during the time he was out in the hiatus. Scored like I think 30-something plus points in one of those games. But the thing with Tony Allen is good for playoff time, defensive wise, especially you play. If I can't even say that right now, the way the Knicks are playing. I keep thinking they're gonna play better than they have, but why should I think that right now? They're not even playoff caliber right now if the season ended. So if you're not in that playoff ability or even gonna make it, then I don't like the deal because that's the only reason I would do it. Tony Allen, he can't shoot his way out of a wet paper bag basically. So you're only getting it for defense and things of that nature. But, I'm not, like you said, I'm iffy either way. Because right now I'm leaning towards going a different way with the Knicks, especially with that Cleveland trade. I think it really changes a lot of things. But how about you, Flo? What you think about this trade proposal you brought up?
Believe it or not, I actually like this trade. The only reason why, both guys, again, have one-year deals. The money works. Tony Allen, great defensive player. He'll be a good backup shooting guard off the bench. Give the Knicks a great defensive spark. Also, if you think about it, in my opinion, Jennings become expendable. The reason why, because you have Ron Baker. He's time for him to get some minutes. Or if you don't like him, bring up Chancellor Randall. For Memphis, this is a great trade for them. Because you know why? You can't depend on the money man over there, the highest paid player in the NBA, and Mike Conley Jr., playing an 82-game season. So now, definitely, you got yourself a point guard that can start right away in Brandon Jennings. So it works out fine for both teams. Also, with the Knicks, you want to go small ball, you could put Tony Allen at the 3, put Melo at the 4. I love this.
Looking at it, thinking about overall, just a few more minutes thinking about it, I could see that if you're trying to win and you think this team is really going to make that playoff push. Like you said, do you really believe in Baker getting those type of minutes? If you do, then that may be a big reason why the Knicks are struggling. They don't really have that many individual great defensive players on this team. So adding a player like Tony Allen might actually help them a lot in that perspective, So if you're looking at that and you really think this team is going to make that push this year, then I'll be more inclined to make that deal. But if you don't, then I don't really see how it's going to help you in that respect. If you're trying to just go for the highest pick and take your chances next year or the year after that, depending on what moves you make, But thank you for all those trade proposals, Flo. Appreciate it. And for me, my hot topic is a potential trade. Not so much that was in the news, but when I was just looking at myself and I just, see what y'all guys think about. Depending on, I wouldn't try to make this deal unless the Knicks are still struggling come around the 23rd, 25th trade deadline area. But, just see what y'all think of the ability of it and potential-wise if it could really happen. It base would be, Carmelo would be in the trade as well as Kaminskas. And I would trade him to the T-Wolves. And the players that you would get back basically would be Dean from there, who's a power forward, as well as Pekovic, the center, and Zach LaVine, who plays their 2-guard/point guard position. It actually works salary cap-wise. It helps, in my opinion, the T-Wolves to get what they really want. And Thibodeau, he really wants a veteran player, a star to go with that team. Him and Melo have a great relationship because of their years within the Olympics. Several times he's been on Olympic teams. Thibodeau was a big fan of Melo's. There's also talk of him going to the Bulls before. Y'all remember that previously. And it may be a team, I know Melo has he can choose what team he can go to because of his trade clause and everything like that. But looking at that team, if they really just see this team really is going down, and you really feel like this team is not going to make the moves that you think it would. Looking at that team that Minnesota would have later on, they'll have Melo, they would have Towns as well as Wiggins also done, and you would take it from there. I think that's a team you really could build around. It'd be a lot easier to try and make a playoff push with that team if the Knicks decide to go that way. And also for the Knicks, I think it's a win-win because Pekovic only has 2 years, basically $12 million, and you have to get a two-guard for the future, and you also get a chance at a decent power forward defensive-wise and Dink. How about you, Flo? If worst come to worst scenario, this is an idea I had.
Definitely, I agree with this trade. I love this trade. As much as I don't want to give up on Carmelo Anthony, but maybe he needs to go, leave New York, change of scenery, and get back to the playoffs finally, because he hasn't been in the playoffs since 2011, I believe, when Jason Kidd was playing for the Knicks last season in the NBA. So pretty much, I would do this trade in a heartbeat. It makes the T-Wolves stronger. And then keep in mind, Pekovic has 2 years left, like you mentioned. But it's my understanding that it's possible he might retire. Exactly. So if that's the case, you can free up more money off the Bucks for the Knicks and go after not one star, but 2 stars in free agency. No,
go ahead, bro.
And also, you're getting a potential superstar, Zach LaVine, who could start at the shooting guard position. And what that does, this trade, if you think about it, it makes Courtney Lee expendable. Can't have him coming off the bench making $12 million a year. And I think I've discussed this with you, LA, a couple days ago. You move Courtney Lee to Philadelphia for Robert Covington if you do this deal.
If they would be able to take that salary cap, that salary-wise, that's only a show. I don't know if Philly want to give up so much, even though they have a lot of space. But if they want us play that can start for them and they can't usually get the sign, it's not a bad move for them considering the players they were trying to get during the offseason be very similar. And they lost out on a couple players like that who was kind of like Lee, But also I was looking at this deal as a move that if the Knicks basically bottom out, they have their own pick this year as well, the 2017 first-round pick. So you can draft for whatever the top center or small forward, which they're lucky enough to move in the top lottery position, let's say. And then you would just, like you were saying earlier, get you another player in free agency that can fill that position. And also, we had talked about this previously, even before the podcast had started. I would still like to go after, Drew Holiday, if that's the case. You want to sign him back, as well as his brother to come back this season if you don't decide to sign Rose back and save some of that money and go after another player to try to help to build around Porzingis. Just a potential worst-case scenario. As always, it still depends on if Melo would say yes, but as we go further along in this podcast, I think that's something you really have to start to explore down the road. How about you, Dandy? What you think about this potential trade?
I'm looking at potential. I'm still iffy on it also with that one. Because even if Melo say yes, because then again, he's going to the West, he's going to be the Western Conference Final. It might be a little bit harder, but for the organization, it could be good potentially if Pekovic doesn't retire, and everybody gets to think. I'm only concerned about the scoring power of Zach LaVine has to be more of a consistent player because we really want to have a go-to player to get busy or a clutch player to get when the fourth quarter comes around for somebody to step up and actually score. So I'm like, I'm half and half on it.
Okay. It's something to keep our minds out and, see what happens as the season goes along. But that was our hot topics. Thank you, fellas. As always, appreciate it. And basically, I just want to go into, take a brief intermission right now. We're just going to have a brief, excuse me. And our listeners, please stay tuned as we take a short message reminder break. Immediately following break, we'll jump right into our NBA Honorable Mentions of the Week. Hey everyone, quick reminder. Please subscribe, share, and give a positive review to the podcast when you have a chance on iTunes. It'd be very much appreciated. You also can find links to our show on Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, Pocket Cast, and then we're also on Google Play. You also can find links to our show on our Facebook fan page, which is also known as Knicksfandom. In addition, if you have any comments or have any mailbag questions that you'd like us to address on the show, You can submit them via email at knicksfandom@yahoo.com. Lastly, this is also an independent podcast that is not officially affiliated with the New York Knicks at this point and or time. Now back to our regularly scheduled podcast. Thank you, listeners. We're back. Now it's time for our personal NBA honorable mentions of the week. Yay! 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 And to start us off, I want to start with Flo. You have anything you'd like to mention for our NBA honorable mention of the week?
Definitely. I want to mention one specific player. One of your favorite players. Got to mention for the year 2016, Russell Westbrook. 34 games in 2016. He has 31 triple-doubles in 34 games 2016, averaging 31 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists. So, all in all, Russell Westbrook is my NBA honorable mention of the week. Kudos to Russell Westbrook.
Sounds good. That's how I call him, baby LeBron, man. Trying to make that push for that triple-double for the season. We're going to see. We talked about that in that previous podcast not too long ago. All right, Flo, thank you for that one. How about you, Danny? Do you got anybody for the NBA honorable mention of the week?
My honorable mention of the week is former NBA coach Mark Jackson for calling out ESPN for coat riding and jock riding the Golden State Warriors. For Wednesday's game, Golden State was supposed to play the Memphis Grizzlies. And this was the commercial, guys. This is how it goes. The commercial states, who is it going to be? Dre, Clay, Steph, or KD? Who's going off tonight? Grizzly faces Warriors. How are you going to have a whole commercial talking about the Warriors and don't mention nobody on the Grizzlies teams? How's that good? How's that possible? It's two teams playing. It's not one team playing. It's two teams playing. You named all four starters. You might as well throw Zaza's name in it. You named all the four starters in Golden State, and you didn't mention not one player on the Memphis Grizzlies on an ESPN game. That's my man Mark Jackson calling out ESPN on some jock riding, coat riding Golden State Warriors. Big up to Mark Jackson.
That's what it sounds like. Limousine riding, jet flying, you know. You got to call them out, man. This is what the NBA problem is sometimes. They want to make this like a circus, you know. Back in the day, they did the same thing with Jordan and Magic and all these guys. But, you know, sometimes you got to call them out for it. So I applaud that. Thank you, Danny D. And for me, my NBA honorable mention of the week is James Harden the Beard, man. They won 6 in a row not too long ago, 17 of their last 19 games. And he's basically, you know, being a prime orchestra in Mike D'Antoni's system. And they even beat on his former teammate Russell Westbrook not too long ago in that Thursday night game, I think. And basically he's averaging during that time frame 33 points, I think 12 assists, 10-something rebounds, and 1.8 steals, I believe. So he's putting on an MVP-type performance this year. Don't know how far it's going to take him playoff-wise. It's going to be a one-trick pony. I know, Flo, you're not a big fan of this type of offense, but, you know, he still got to put the ball in the hole, and he's still doing a lot of that point guard position. So, got to give him kudos for that right now. And pretty much that's the NBA honorable mentions of the week. Yay! 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 And for our last segment, before we get to our final closing remarks, I just want to talk about some of the things we just NBA-wise before we close out the show. Danny D, you got anything you want to say NBA-wise that you want to close out the show with? Otherwise, I'll just go into something I was thinking about we talked about previously.
No, you can go and talk about that.
Okay.
Go ahead with something.
All right. How about you, Flo? Anything you want to talk about in particular before I go into that?
No, Ali, I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
All right. Appreciate it, fellas. I just want to go over the Kyle Korver trade. I thought that was a big trade for the Cleveland Cavaliers, getting a player of his ability and overall just his shooting persistence and things of that nature. I think it's exactly what Cleveland needed, especially considering JR is out injured and he having family issues as well. Something you have to think about, you know. Our best go to him and his family-wise. But just looking at this team for Cleveland-wise, I think it's really changed the dynamics of the NBA, even though everyone would say it's pretty much you picked Cleveland and Warriors anyway before the season started. But I think it's kind of locks it up even more right now. Because just looking at the team, it's hard to really decide who you're going to double team looking at it right now. If you look at, they have Love, they also have LeBron, they have Kyrie, and now you have Korver. When you double LeBron, you're going to leave Love or you're going to leave Korver open. I don't know what you would do. You also have Kyrie. Same thing with them penetrating and kicking it back out. Korver is a guy that can shoot the ball from just going around picks like Reggie Miller, but also he can shoot it straight up and even from behind the 3-point line a few feet. So to me, I think you really changed the dynamics of the NBA. I was very upset when I heard Atlanta let this deal go within their same conference. And, how about you, Danny? What you think about this deal overall?
Yeah, it's going to be a great deal for Cleveland. And also for Atlanta, I don't know how Atlanta's going to feel because they're saying Mike Dunleavy doesn't even want to go there. He wants to buy out. He wants to be a free agent. He doesn't even want to go to Atlanta now. So he said he wants Atlanta to buy him out, and he wants to go to a different team. And then also with Mo, I didn't even know Mo Williams was still playing.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, how you gonna trade somebody? Mo Williams didn't even go to training camp for Cleveland, but he's still still member of the team. I don't know how that's working, but of course it's a great deal for Cleveland. And when if JR ever comes back, his injury, he's out for like 3 or 4 months. Kyle is a spot of shooter, but he doesn't play defense. But it's another weapon for LeBron.
Exactly, and he's a 43% 3-point shooter his whole career. So imagine you seeing LeBron down low and Kyrie penetrating as well as Love. You just like pick your poison with this team right now. How about you, Flo? What you think about that?
I want to add on to what you guys said. What bothers me with this trade pretty much is that the Atlanta Hawks is actually in 4th place in the Eastern Conference. They just smashed the Dallas Mavericks tonight, 97-82. They're 21-16. And they're already breaking up the season. I've already heard a rumor that they're dangling Tim Hardaway Jr., former Knick, on the trading block. And then you have Paul Millsap, they're interested in moving. I don't know what's going on over there. I really don't. And then also, their GM is in hot water with the comments he made about African-American women. This Hawks team is bothering me because they just pretty much gift wrapped the NBA championship back to Cleveland. This is an insult. This is an insult for all NBA fans because now it doesn't make sense for any NBA fan to watch the rest of the regular season. You might as well let's go to the finals. Let's see Cleveland face Golden State in the NBA finals. Why bother watching the rest of the NBA regular season games? Why?
Exactly. That's why I really disliked it.
This is a joke and embarrassment. I can't believe the league allowed this trade to go down. I can't believe Atlanta participated in this. I can't believe Portland got themselves involved in this shady trade.
And you got a weak protected first-round pick, It's not even a pick that you can get that's going to be a legitimate first-round pick. It's a loaded, protected first-round pick from what I read and what I've seen. So I don't really know why you would do that. It's like you said, you're gift wrapping them to the NBA Finals. And I don't know why you're breaking up this team anyway, because Atlanta, like you said, is already still in the playoff hunt. Why even getting Dwight Howard at the beginning of the season where you're just going to break it up and feel like you didn't want to spend the money? I didn't understand that. And, basically the other trade proposal I wanted to talk about for closing remarks was like you just stated, Flo, was Paul Millsap, and they were talking about he may potentially go to Toronto. And just looking as an NBA fan that's taking the Knicks fandom issue out of it, just as a Knicks fan, I like that move. They can try potentially get it because that's the main weakness they have in Toronto was to get a power forward. So if you can get him to go with their center who's playing well already and go with their backcourt of Lowry as well as DeRozan, and then you also have that small forward who's a very good defender, that's a strong starting lineup, You actually could take a real chance to go 6-7 games maybe with Cleveland if that deal is able to be made and you don't hurt your other key components. What you think about that deal, Flo, potentially, if that can happen?
What was the player that Toronto was dangling to Atlanta? Is it Terrence Ross? What was the trade proposal?
It was Ross. I forgot the other two players, but I know Ross was a major part of it. I think there was another draft pick involved, and I had to look at their roster. But it wasn't none of their main starting people. That was the issue.
As a Knicks fan, I don't like this trade at all. But if you're Toronto, that helps a lot. You reunite Paul Millsap with his buddy DeMar Carroll, former Atlanta Hawk. So that helps a lot. But it seems to me with Toronto, they've lost some confidence with their starting center, Valenzuelas. I don't know why. The guy's a good ball player, but they need another firepower to compete against Cleveland. We all know Paul Millsap, is good for 30 to 40 points against the Cleveland Cavaliers in a playoff series. We know that. So that's going to be a 7-game series if Toronto can get Paul Millsap. So I like this deal as an NBA fan. As a Knicks fan, I hate this deal.
Definitely, I agree with you. How about you, Danny D? What you think about that?
It'd be a great deal Toronto, but they have to watch out. He's going to be a free agent, so they're going to have to give him that money. He's going to want his money. Paul Millsap can ball. He's a double-double guy. And if he comes to Toronto, man, we in trouble. Definitely in trouble. Definitely in trouble.
I agree with that. But that's the thing I say. The Knicks have to figure out what they want to do. Because these teams trying to make these type of moves, you have to decide if you're really going to be involved with this if you're the Knicks. Once these teams, if they're trying to get Korver, he already went to Cleveland, and Millsap going to Toronto, you basically fighting for next year at this point. Because barring injuries, you're not beating these teams. So what are you going to do? Just keep being within the basement of the East? Or you going to say, let's bottom out like they did with before they had with what's the guy who was with Indiana they had before the GM?
Danny Walsh?
Donnie Walsh.
There you go, exactly. Thank you, Phil. Donnie Walsh. And you have to decide that what you want to do. Take the cap space you'll have next year if you decide not to get Rose, build around Porzingis, and then take your chance with a top pick in this draft. As well, we talked about previously with a trade for a player like a Zach LaVine or someone of that nature and try to build that way. Because I don't want to keep just seeing a team that's going to be 7th or 8th and getting blown out in the first round. Not when I thought this team had a legitimate chance to be top 4 in the East and just see what happens come playoff time and really give these teams a run. But this is what they're going to do. You have to decide where you're going to go from here. But that's just my take regarding where the NBA is at right now and where the Knicks are at pretty much right now in this season. But, we'll see. Time will tell. As always, thank you, fellas, for, starting this podcast again. We hope the listeners enjoyed it. Any last closing remarks you have, Danny D?
Man, thank you, listeners, for the ride. Welcome back. Thank you, guys. Keep on subscribing. Keep on listening.
Thank you, Danny D. How about you, Flo? Any last closing remarks you might have?
I want to thank all the listeners. Please continue to subscribe, support this podcast. This is an A-list show for the A-list fans, Knicks fans, and all NBA fans. Knicksfandom #1 all the way. Let's get it, gentlemen. Let's go.
I hear you. Thank you very much, fellows. As always, thank my co-hosts. Can't do it without y'all. As always, thanks again to our loyal listeners. We hope you enjoy the revamped version of our show. Have a great week. Stay safe out there. Take care. See ya.